Hi, this is the video for Monday, October 26th for 11th grade English. I'm going to talk you through mostly our project. Everything is in the context of your project and my models of your project. Your project is due next Monday, November the 2nd, and it is a long weekend, so you don't have class on Monday or Tuesday, just to remind you. Here are the slides for our class today. The American Revolution is our topic. It continues to be. And we are going to look at a couple of really interesting examples of song styles to start our class. Now, if you're in class, we get to listen to Lin-Manuel Miranda explain how he was able to come up with his song styles for different characters. But if you're watching this video, I'm just unable to play those things without getting a copyright infringement violation. So I'll try to talk you through it a little bit. Here we go, week 2 of a two-week unit, so it's a short unit. All right, so Lin-Manuel Miranda is our songwriter and composer. So he wrote the lyrics and he designed the melodies and the songs for this musical. And I'm going to play you a couple of different songs which he references in his video to just contrast the different styles. And then to talk about characterization as well. And we're only going to listen to about 15 seconds, not very long. So this is the second track. It's called Aaron Burr, Sir.
1776, New York City.
Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?
That depends. Who's asking?
Oh, sure. Sir, I'm Alexander Hamilton. I'm at your service, sir. I have been looking for you.
I'm getting nervous.
So what Miranda is trying to do there with Aaron Burr is illustrate his character, his personality, through the way that Aaron Burr sings. Aaron Burr sings in a syncopated way. Miranda says every time he tries to capture his character, he does like a reggae hall rhythm, where everything is on the offbeat. And he does this because Aaron Burr can't be pinned down. The man himself. He goes where the wind goes. He doesn't commit to public opinion. He doesn't proclaim his belief system. Which comes up later in the Election of 1800 song, if you picked that one. Because Hamilton famously says in that song, I mean not in reality, I'd vote for Jefferson because Jefferson has beliefs and Burr has none. So it's captured here in that musical off-rhythm version, or way, I guess, that Burr sings. And here's another example. This one, Thomas Jefferson. It's What Did I Miss?
1789. How does the bastard, orphan, immigrant, decorated war vet unite the colonies through more debt? Fight the other founding fathers till he has to forfeit. Have it all, lose it all. You ready for more yet? Treasury Secretary, Washington's the president. Every American experiment sets a precedent. Not so fast, someone came along to resist him. Pissed him off until we had a two-party system. You haven't met him yet, you haven't had the chance, cause he's been kicking ass as the ambassador to France. But someone's gotta keep the American promise. You simply must meet Thomas.
Thomas Jefferson's coming home.
Thomas Jefferson's coming home.
Thomas Jefferson's coming home.
Thomas Jefferson's coming home.
Thomas Jefferson's coming home. Lord, he's been off in Paris for so long.
France is following us to revolution. There is no more status quo. But the sun comes up and the world still spins. I helped Lafayette draft a declaration. Then I said I gotta go. I gotta be in Monticello. Now the work at home begins. So what did I miss? What did I miss? Virginia, my home sweet home, I wanna give you a kiss.
So in that song, What Did I Miss? This song style is completely different from the rest of the musical, which is really inspired by the hip-hop of the 90s and the 2000s, maybe even the 80s. I'm not sure exactly where Lin-Manuel Miranda puts those timestamps, but this song is jazzy. And what he's trying to do is capture this idea that Thomas Jefferson is from the old world himself, and he doesn't completely understand the new. This upstart, Alexander Hamilton, gets under his skin. He is this man who's been in Paris during the Revolution. He doesn't even understand what everybody was doing in their trenches. So his music is out of sync. It's out of rhythm. It's out of time. It's outdated. It's still really fun. It's still charismatic, and you want to listen to it, and that's Thomas Jefferson. But there's a dissonance between what he sings and what the other characters who are in the Revolution are singing. So all of that is what Lin-Manuel Miranda is trying to do in the creation of his songs. And that is what you have to do. So in your song analysis project, I'll pull this up here. This is part 1, which I've kind of skipped until now. At the beginning of your document, you need to write 2 to 3 sentences explaining the style of the song. What does it reveal about the character singing or about the nature of its subject? You have to reveal that you listened to the song here. So I didn't put up the lyrics. The lyrics are unimportant for this part of the song. It's really about the rhythms that you're trying to capture. So I want to start with that idea before we get into our content for today's class. And we'll come back to it. All right, so we're at war. That's where we left on Thursday. We left with this idea that the American Revolution was happening and that the British are kind of winning in the South, but that George Washington is successfully allied with France and the Marquis de Lafayette. And I want to pause for a moment about that because there's this sense that everything is going in a really vigorous and passionate direction for the Americans. And Patrick Henry famously said at the Second Virginia Convention, "Give me liberty or give me death." There's this impassioned plea from the Americans to be their own people. But not everyone was so gung-ho, and that's going to be the topic of today's model. A full 1/3 of Americans were loyalists throughout this entire revolution, and about 40% felt strongly in favor of the war. So those are your two opposite ends of the spectrum, which leaves some people in the middle who are just trying to live their own lives and not be so bothered by these larger world affairs. They just are hoping there's going to be a good outcome for all of them. So the revolution is something that comes around to people in a pretty slow way, even when they win, which we'll get into tomorrow. So with that, there are a couple of documents we'll take a look at. There is this British loyalist, Samuel Seabury, who wrote by the name of a farmer in a way to just try to capture the humble origins of his station, try to seem like the everyman. And he published a document called, put it up on the screen here, Free Thoughts on the Proceedings of the Continental Congress, including notes on the side to help you see the language because it's pretty dense. So this primary document is the kind of primary document you're going to need to source in your project. I'm going to read through some of the pieces here so you can see why it's important and why it comes up in the song later. Samuel Seabury writes, "The American colonies are unhappily involved in a scene of confusion and discord. The bands of civil society are broken, the authority of government weakened, and in some instances taken away. Individuals are deprived of there's that word, liberty. Their property is frequently invaded by violence, and not a single magistrate or town official has had courage or virtue enough to interpose." So he says here, summary statement, there's confusion in the American colonies. From this distressed situation, it was hoped that the wisdom and prudence of the Congress in Philadelphia would have delivered us. The eyes of all men were turned to them, and we really expected that some prudent scheme of accommodation with our unhappy disputes with the mother country, England, would have been adopted. So he says, I hope, or would have hoped, Congress has some sort of plan to settle the dispute with England. But alas, they are broken up without ever attempting it. They have taken no step toward that peace. They've gone from bad to worse, and have either ignorantly misunderstood, carelessly neglected, or basely betrayed the interests of the colonies. And so the Congress has ignored, neglected, betrayed the colonies. The Continental Congress, the American government at the time. No, if I must be enslaved, Samuel Seabury writes, let it be by a king, at least, and not by a parcel of committeemen. If I am to be devoured, let me be devoured by a lion and not rats. So he says, I would rather be enslaved by a king than by Congress. Strong words. And that primary source really riled up Alexander Hamilton. So here's the loyalist who's like, gosh, the Congress is awful. I wish we would just be back to subjects of the king and stop with all this revolution business. Alexander Hamilton, who was a patriot, came out with this really strong rebuttal against Samuel Seabury, where he says, the whole world knows our contest with England is built upon this interesting question, whether the inhabitants of England have a right to dispose of the lives and properties of Americans or not. The port of Boston is blocked up and an army is planted in the town by the British. An act has been passed to alter its charter to prohibit its assemblies, to license the murder of its own inhabitants and convey them from their own country to England to be tried for their lives. So look at what the British are doing to these poor Bostonians. What was all this for? Just because a small number of people, provoked by an open and dangerous attack on their liberties, destroyed some tea? So Parliament has attacked our liberties and punished us. There may be justice here, but it looks so much like cruelty that a man of a humane heart would be more apt to call it by the latter than the former. So this is just cruelty, says Alexander Hamilton. And so in response to Samuel Seabury, he says, how can you sit and take this from England? They're treating us awfully. They're even killing us. We have to fight. Lin-Manuel Miranda uses this to create his song Farmer Refuted. So I'm not going to play it all, but instead we're just going to look at the song analysis. The song is awesome, you should listen to it, but for the sake of time and copyright, I'm not going to play it in its entirety. So here are the lyrics, and this is indeed the task before you as you create your song analysis. My name is Samuel Seabury, so here's, if I were to click on this, one of the annotations that's done in the Gilder Lehrman Center. Who was this guy? That could be a historical annotation. And I present free thoughts on the proceedings of the Continental Congress. That is the document we just looked at. So that is the primary source, and here is a paragraph explaining it. Chaos and bloodshed are not a solution. So here's an interesting part where they annotated this to point out that the avoidance of violence is a recurring theme in the Continental Congress document. And that's nice, because it shows you how it doesn't have to be a direct allusion to the historical document to kind of be an allusion to it, that you can be a little creative with seeing, well, this could be referring to violence, which I also think was in this other thing that happened. And then down here, a little bit longer on, Hamilton says it's already haunting us, this violence. So they're annotating that to point it out from his primary source document. So you can see a couple different ways that you could be using these primary sources. And then what about Boston? This is a reference to the two key events, the Boston Tea Party and the Boston Massacre. So more explanations of how you could be annotating your song. I want to go up here to Hamilton where he says, yo, this is where Lin-Manuel Miranda says, look, this is how I designed the song. I got this idea from this Joel Ortiz's Big Pun tribute where he basically goes in on every word to make his own version of that word. You don't need to know this. I think it's fascinating, but this is the kind of thing I want you to do in your understanding of theme. That what this sounds like is a kind of rap battle, and that's exactly what the song is meant to be, to try to show you the way that these two men were battling each other with their words. So then, we did this as a class, and we did it with You'll Be Back. You don't have to do this if you're watching the video. We just did this as further understanding for this analysis project that you have. And we reminded ourselves King George III was the leader of Britain at the time, listened to the song, and we analyzed these lyrics together. And we noted, well, what is this song about? What is it trying to convey in terms of its themes? And then we went through and found 2 to 3 historical moments just to practice before I set your classmates free, and they had the rest of the class to work on their analysis. So that's your homework. No stems this whole week. Just work on your project, which, again, to reiterate, is available through your daily agenda. And it's your chance, here it is, Song Analysis Assessment. It's your chance to be free a little bit. You're not generating that much writing. You're generating 3 to 5 historic moments of a paragraph a paragraph each, and then one small 2 to 3 sentence paragraph about song style. So it ends up being a total of 3 to 5